Okay, so here I am at the start of this race, and like I have done many times, I waited until a few seconds after the start to actually start my race. So you can see, even though there's no placings on the right, you can look at my watts on the left, and I'm over 500 watts at the get-go because I'm trying to catch up to riders. So here are these two riders that are clearly not going hard enough, so I decided to pass them. My goal is to try to catch up and pass as many people as I can. And here you can see now the placings have started. So I realize that I'm 32nd out of 38th place, and I'm only 1 or 2 seconds behind. There's a group 5 or 6 seconds up. I catch these two riders. I'm still doing 400 watts, and I am got my sights on the group ahead of me. My kind of general rule is if I can see them, I can probably run them down. And we're going downhill now at 3-4% down, which is good for me because I'm heavier. I'm still pushing over 350 watts at times here to catch up. And I'm in 30th now out of 38. I started in 38th place. And so I'm trying to catch up to this group here, still putting out high watts at 350, 400 here. I see I'm 3 seconds behind the group, and I know this section of route here is pretty flat. So I'm still trying to work hard at 377, 380 watts, trying to catch up to get into the draft. And I'm running sauce on another screen. It didn't capture it in the recording here, but I can tell that right now I'm not getting any draft. So another big effort, 400 watts, try to push to close that 2 second gap. And I can see, obviously there's a group here. But what I'm thinking here is I'm going to catch these guys. And yeah, I can't sustain 400 watts, but I'm also watching the route profile. And I know that this is kind of a flat section here. So do I want to just sit on these guys and draft with them? These are at the tail end. Nothing against them, but I'm with the group drafting, doing 280, which is below FTP. So I just decided to blow right by him. I got my eyes set on this next guy who's 3 seconds ahead. So I see he's 3 seconds, and you can see the group ahead of him off in the distance at 6, 7 seconds ahead. So now I'm sitting in 23rd, still churning out about 400 watts here for the first 3 minutes. Um, my normalized power is probably somewhere in the 350, 380. So I'm still trying to chase these guys down. Now I'm putting forth a big effort here. You can see over 550 watts. I can kind of muster up some big pushes to try to close down these gaps. It's flat here going into a climb. So I know I got to catch these guys on the flat or I'm toast. So keep pushing, another 420. Then I back off a bit. Now I see they've grouped up, which usually means they slow down a bit. Another big push, 585, 580. So I'm pushing hard here, making the final. Now I've realized that I've caught them. My draft gauge is going up a little bit slightly, so I back off the power so I don't overshoot them. Somebody makes a comment about being a cooperative group ride. So I'm content here to just kind of catch on to them in the tail end and then just draft behind them as as I let them kind of pull me through the rest of this flat section. So now I'm sitting in 23rd, 22nd spot. Again, I started at 38. So I'm feeling pretty good here. I've caught most of the group. They're pretty chill at this point. I'm trying to recover, doing as few watts as possible, down to 1.6 watts per kilogram or something. I'm just kind of sitting in here until we get to the climb, and then I'm gonna kind of have to decide how hard do I really push it up the climb, knowing that my strength is really on the downhill. So here we fast forward to the start of the climb. It's 2 to 3%, but you can see now The pressure from the front of the pack has caused it to stretch out. So now there's gaps, 3-4 seconds in between a number of people. Here we're hitting 6% grade, which isn't terrible, but it's enough. As you can see, by powers 380, which is pretty high for me. I'm out 300 FTP just about. So trying to make it over the top of this climb here to get to the flat and the descent. Sitting in 22nd place. Here I've caught the guy in 22nd, so I move up into 21st on the flat. This arch here, I think, is the arch for the KOM on the climb. And as true to my form, I see riders ahead of me and a 2-second gap, and I know I can close it down, especially here. So I'm pushing hard, 400, 350, back off to 250, knowing I've caught him. I'm going to sit in there slipstream a little bit, kind of relax. This is the flat part at the top of the hill. And then I know they're using arrow and their power ups. So this guy's preparation to hop on my wheel. This rider VTie hopped on my wheel. He saw me accelerate. We're going to be going downhill pretty soon. Again, my eyes are on the right side of the screen where the next rider's 6 seconds up, and I know there's a big descent. I can see him. I can catch him. So got a few seconds gap to close down here to move up into 18th place. So the guys behind me wisen up. They start accelerating to get into my draft. And so I'm going to let them do a little bit of work on this descent. It's only 3% downhill, so I'm still pushing a little bit. Now we get onto some flats, and I decide that back off way down under 200 watts. Back up a little bit. Again, I see the guy. This is a descent, 1% downhill, 3%, 4, 5%. If I push the watts, I know nobody can hang with me. You can see this guy's having to sprint behind me to try to keep up in my draft. So they've all gotten wind of the idea that I can pull them along pretty fast, faster than they can themselves. So Training Peaks guy, he picks up. I decide to, you can see I go into super tuck mode, and yeah, they're all trying to, do some 3 watts per kilogram to keep up with me going down the hill. So now I've moved up into 18th place. And I know I'm bringing these guys along, but I'm doing 340 watts, 350. They're hanging with me. We're on a flat ground. So I'm trying to think, what should I do here? Should I pull them along because we're coming up to a flat stretch? Or do I just keep riding and see if they drop off, which is usually what happens. So I just keep pressing the gas pedal forward. And these guys realize that I back off a little bit saying, hey, maybe we're better as a group of 6 or 5, soon to be 6. And on the right side of the screen, you can see there's kind of a group of us here, then 2 at 8 seconds ahead, and then a bunch of people 27 seconds ahead. So at this point in the race, there's 13 kilometers to go. I've been putting out a lot of watts, and I'm trying to decide here if I'm going to stay here with this group, and we're going to maybe catch the guys that are 8 seconds ahead, but trying to close down that almost 30-second gap from here isn't really possible. Thankfully, Mr. Norton decided to pull. So again, press the gas, pedal down, 420 watts. I'm going to stay in this guy's slipstream. He's willing to push. I'm willing to be a beneficiary of that. So we catch the other rider. He's not too interested in pulling right now. and I'm just going to sit in the slipstream. But yeah, we're bringing the other guys along. Up ahead, you can see 4 or 5 seconds ahead, a couple more riders. You can see the other guys are using their power ups. I'm kind of saving mine, thinking, hey, I'm going to sit here and recover, let these guys chase down these next two riders. So as we fast forward a little bit, 3 more kilometers. So we're a big group now. You can see we've caught the two guys that we were chasing down. And now on the right hand side, you can see the next big blob of people are like 24, 25 seconds ahead. So we kind of all know right here, right now, that this is our group to ride with for a while. Knowing that we've got a couple more laps to do, a climb uh, in the middle of each of these laps. You can see at the top of the screen, each of those sections between lap and the kilometers there tells us how many laps we have left to do. So I'm trying to just kind of chill here, not putting out too many watts, trying to stay in some kind of draft, out of the wind. No sense in trying to pull this group apart. Nobody else to chase down. We got a big group here. Time to sit in and draft. But these are the C boys. So C's are pushing 2.5, 3 watts per kilogram most of the time. And it's never an easy race for me. So a couple lightweights move up as we start to go up the climb. And this is kind of a hard climb because it messes with your cadence. So you go 4, 5, 6%, and then all of a sudden it like levels out. So you try to downshift, and then it gets like it looks like now. Here it's getting flat, 4, 5, 3, back up to 4, 5, 6. So like your cadence lets up, and then it applies more pressure. So it's kind of a tricky climb for your cadence. Anyway, so as you can see, I'm heavier. I'm falling back as the climb goes. The light guys stretch it out. And I'm okay with that for this group because I know I can pound it down the hill and catch up to them. A couple minutes later, and we're at the top of the KOM on the flat bridge, just going under the banner. I'm in 20th place, which is where I was at the middle of that climb. So now you can see there's a couple time gaps on the right. 3 guys 6 seconds ahead. I caught these guys. You can start to see the folks up ahead. It's time to catch them. I'm still kind of recovering, waiting to decide if this guy on the right is going to pull, but I recognize his name from earlier, and I was stronger, so I know like I got to get ahead of this guy and close down this gap. So gap is closed now. So I caught these next 2 riders. It's 5% downhill. I don't need to sit in their draft because I'm faster than they are. Still got 6 seconds ahead to catch 3 more guys, so I'm just going to press on. You can see the 2 guys up ahead, super tucking myself. I'm going to catch them. What I don't want to do is overshoot these 2 when I catch them because you can see the time gap on the right now is 1 second to them and then 30 seconds ahead. So there's no point in me trying to drop these guys. I'm not going to close down 30 seconds to the next group. So here I am backing way off. I still overshoot them a little bit, but I don't want to play that type of game. So you can see I stop pedaling, 0 RPMs, 0 watts, waiting for them to catch up to me. And then I try to get into their draft. So this is the end of lap 2, which I know the rest of this is going to be flat, and the first part of the next lap is going to be flat. So I'm planning to ride with these guys until the next climb, try to stay in their draft. So here we are into the last climb, or the climb on the last lap, and I'm still 16th, riding with these two guys that I caught on the downhill. So 15th, 16th place, just about. Um, these guys are a little bit lighter. Mr. Norton is pretty strong. So here we go, where I'm sliding back, and then one of the guys that we caught comes and passes me, which isn't a surprise. I got to keep my watts pretty level, right around 330, 350. Try not to go too high, blow myself up on the climb. So gap starts to form. They decide that they're, maybe the terrain changed there. They're just gonna stay together or something. So just keeping them in my sights till we get to the top. So here we come again to that bridge right before the top of the KOM. This is the third lap, and you can see they managed to drop me pretty good. So I'm still sitting in 17th place, which at this point, I'm pretty happy. I see 3 kilometers to go. A gap behind me of 8 seconds, 10 seconds, and the gap ahead of me is like 13, 14. So I'm like, oh crap. So 17th out of 38th over the KOM. This is flat. So I had a choice here. How hard do I push to get to the end? I'm really gassed at this point, even though it's only a half an hour race. I've been doing over FTP for the whole 30 minutes that I've been riding, just trying to catch riders and not a whole lot of rest because of the 3 climbs. So anyway, so here's my kind of my final decision is got to get over this last little hump at 2% grade, and then I'll be going downhill. And we'll see how much time I can close on the downhill. All right, so here I am going downhill. I see there's a kilometer and a half or 1.6 to go. Isn't much time. 62 kilometers an hour, getting in that super tuck, hoping I can close down some time. You can see the time gap on the right. Okay, so you can see my time gap on the right is about 8 seconds going down to 7. There's 3 guys in that group that are at 7 seconds. I hit this bridge, goes down to 6 seconds. My watts go up to 400. Got 1 kilometer to go. I can start to see them. Still doing 400. I'm trying to think now, do I close the gap before 0.3 kilometers, which is usually where the sprint starts, or what do I do? I know the gap is too big here at 4 seconds, so I'm like, I'm just going to close it down and hopefully I'll catch them by the time it's 0.3 to go. I hit my draft boost, knowing I'm not in a draft, it's not going to help me. But once I do get into their slipstream, it will help me. 2 seconds to go, 2-second gap, half a kilometer. They've been drafting off each other. They're probably picking up the pace, so it's making it harder for me to jump on into their slipstream. And at this point, I'm like, it's time to go. 420, 400 watts. I don't have a lot left. But my buddy gave me a thumbs up, so there's a little bit of thumbs up superpower there. At this point, 1 second to go, I'm up 500 watts. My goal is to try to catch this guy ahead of me so I can finish in 16th place instead of 17th. But you can see he's doing 4.3 watts. I'm doing 4.0 watts, 500. I'm thinking I'm going to catch him at the line, and he managed to still keep his position. So I still finished 17th, and my power numbers are higher than they've ever been. So 2.6 for 20 minutes is really high for me. Seeing 4 watts per kilogram is unusual for me. So that was the race. Lap it up, bridges and boardwalks with the sea boys. So it's pretty fun. Kind of a panic start, going from 38 to 17 and finishing in that 17th spot. So top half, I'd say. That's pretty good for me.